Portrait of a Fangirl is a web series and podcast created by Temple of Geek. At the core of the project is the importance of telling the stories of women who have found inspiration, growth, and power through fandom. My name is Jenna Wrenn, and I'm the host of the Portrait of a Fangirl podcast. And today, I have such a great pleasure of talking to somebody whom I fangirl over, Miss Katee Sackhoff. Hi, Katee.
Hi.
So excited.
Thank you. I thank you for having me. I love it. I love your intro. I love everything about it.
Well, I am very happy to talk to you today. I think that you have a lot of insight that really aligns with the project here that we're trying to do and empowering women in fandom.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just start off by asking you about some of your early fandoms. So growing up, what were you a fan of? And what were things you were really passionate about?
Gosh. So when I was little, I think I was really passionate about playing. Play and make-believe were huge aspects of my childhood. I could get lost for hours in our yard playing by myself and just creating fantasy worlds and running around and pretending like I was anything from a fairy to a sheriff. Like I was all over the place. You know, I was influenced by film later into my childhood because we really didn't have access to a lot of television. And so around, I remember being probably like 9-10 years old and starting to, my dad was introducing me to films that were influential in his life. And it was always science fiction. It was always action. And, so that really inspired me as a little girl, watching these movies. I joke that I wanted to be Bruce Willis. I wanted to save the Nakatomi building. I wanted everything about him was just cool. I like he was the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my entire life. And I just wanted to emulate that. There weren't a ton of women, strong women that I viewed as strong, but I found them in science fiction, Sigourney Weaver and Linda Hamilton and Lucy Lawless. And, these women inspired me as an actor.
So a lot of your work now has really been in the realm of science fiction. Do you feel like that's kind of been a full circle moment for you?
Absolutely. And it was so intentional. The moment in my career where I had the luxury of choice, I leaned into things that my father would want to watch, that my dad would find interesting. And because his tastes are my tastes, we enjoy a lot of the same movies. And so I fought hard for Battlestar Galactica. I knew that if I could get that character, that it would change my life. I didn't think that it would change my life in the way that it had. I just knew that up till that point, I'd played very stereotypical blonde roles. And I knew that if I could book Starbuck, that it would make people look at me differently. I heard so much in the beginning of my career, she's just the wrong look for a strong character. She's just, she's blonde and she's small and she's sweet and we don't know what to do with her, So I knew that if I could get that character, people would see me differently.
Right. And then, you have moved into arguably one of the largest fandoms in pop culture with Star Wars, with Bo-Katan, who is another extremely strong feminist character who you don't see often, I don't think, as often as you should. So how did you feel when taking on this character? Did you feel like you wanted to really make that side of her shine?
Well, I think, what's so interesting about the characters that I play is that they're incredibly complicated. I think the fact that they're female is one of the least interesting things about them. I think that it's very easy to say that, well, she's a strong woman. Well, Bo is a strong person. She's an incredibly strong person. And Starbuck was a strong person. They just happen to be women. And that's what I love about it, that those are strong characters, And so for me, the thing that I lean into in these women, these characters, the most important things for me is I find where their vulnerability lies. I find where their sort of their insecurities and the things that make them human, that make them relatable. I lean into those things, and I find that is where they get their strength from.
Has embodying these very strong characters changed anything for you on a personal level?
I think that when I got Starbuck, I was not a person that spoke my mind. I was raised not by my parents, but I was raised in a time, I believe, where women were, and young girls were still talked to and trained to be seen, not heard, especially in the industry that I was in. Don't be difficult. Don't be a bitch. Just you're so lucky to be here. But then you'd see the men next to me doing whatever they wanted and getting multiple chances to screw up, and I only get one. So I was very much trained to be a good little girl. And playing Starbuck gave me this weird voice in the sense that I found my bravado through her. And part of it was protection, like a protection mechanism. I was a very young girl in this industry. I was 17 years old. I was surrounded by wonderful, wonderful men, but a lot of men. Crews were the makeup of them was majority male. And I was a young girl. Not to say that I was ever in a situation where I was very blessed, but I was never in a situation where I felt taken advantage of or anything. But what I'm saying is that I created this crassness, this vulgar sort of stereotypical masculine energy about me because it protected me. I was one of the guys. I was one of the boys. They didn't look at me like a cute girl. They looked at me like, oh, that's just Katee. And Starbuck was part of that, part of helping me shape who that alter ego was, if you will. And I didn't really learn to speak my voice and find my voice until I was 28 and had my thyroid removed. I had cancer and had my thyroid removed, and I had a very traumatic. My anesthesia was very traumatic in that it was the first time I'd been put under. They put the needle in. They forgot to screw the IV to it, and blood was squirting everywhere. And I was so traumatized by that. And I was screaming for my mom, and my mom came in. And by the time my mom came in, they'd given me something to calm me down, but I was traumatized. And I woke up from that surgery, which was a very long surgery, but I woke up from it with this sort of defiance to always speak my mind and always say what I wanted to say, because I felt like I was so scared in that moment. That moment came at the very end of Battlestar Galactica. And so it sort of coincided with me finding my voice as a woman, which I found later in life. It's a very long-winded answer for that.
Wow. It takes these specific moments to really change someone's mindset. And sounds very terrifying that you had to go through that, but it made you the person that you are today.
Absolutely, for sure.
Now, did you carry this newfound voice into the rest of the characters that you wound up playing?
I think so. I think that the thing that my characters all have in common, all of them have in common, is their self-doubt and vulnerability. That is the piece of me that I've instilled in all of my characters. The strength that these characters are, those are who these people are on paper. That is who they're written to be. And So I am being given the privilege of playing these strong women and learning from them. But I do not believe that I was inherently strong as I started playing these characters. It's sort of a symbiotic growth, if you will.
Right. Now, I want to talk a little bit about your experience being a fangirl yourself. Yeah. Was there ever a moment while you were working on set or any of the franchises you were involved in where you found yourself kind of having to check your inner fangirl at the door?
It happens all the time. It happens all the time. I mean, it happened on Battlestar Galactica. I wasn't a fan of Battlestar. I didn't know the original series, but just the fact that, that you're sitting in a spaceship and you're this make believe that I get to do, it just blows my mind. I have those pinch me moments on set all the time, and not because of like, oh, this is my life, this is so, wonderful, but just like, how did I convince them to let me on set? There's just this moment of, especially on Mandalorian, like seeing Grogu for the first time, holding the dark saber for the first time, like getting to work with Jack Black and be directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, like these moments, like in my career, standing with Jon Favreau, like it still continues to just blow my mind.
Wow. It's quite the adventure for a fangirl.
Yeah, for sure.
So now you're also working on a podcast yourself. It's the Sackhoff Show. And I just wanted to know a little bit more about that. So can you tell me basically what your podcast is about and what kind of stories you're hoping to tell with it?
Absolutely. The podcast really came out of the YouTube channel that I started with my husband. I sort of got bored between projects. It was right after Longmire, before Another Life. Mandalorian season 2 was in there. But I had a lot of downtime and I was super bored, but I was held under contract. And so I couldn't really work. And so I went and I created this YouTube channel that I loved, and we continued it through COVID and had so much fun doing it, but it was just too time consuming and incredibly expensive to do these grand episodes that we were doing. But what I realized, like with the rise of social media and COVID, what I was craving were these authentic conversations with people again. And, I was having these wonderful, wonderful in-depth conversations with my friends and work colleagues, largely at conventions, where you haven't seen someone for a long time, but you're like, oh my God, that was just the best conversation. I just sat with someone for over an hour at lunch and we talked about everything. And I was like, God, wouldn't it be something if we could just record these conversations? And that's sort of what it came out of. And so we just went for it and just started. The idea behind the conversations has always been, I want the fans to feel like they are a fly on the wall, listening to two friends have a conversation over coffee. And I wanted the conversations to feel candid and raw and unscripted and honest. And that was always my intention. And so I started going through my Rolodex of people that I found interesting and that I've worked with. Some I've worked with, some I've not. We just had Simon Pegg on. I've never worked with Simon, but I met him through my ex, and I've always been such a huge fan of Simon. So I DM'd him and was like, hey, you want to come on my podcast? But it's this mutual love that I think I have for the guests on my show that is just this sort of respect inside the career of that we've all been in this industry. We've all worked in this industry for a long time. And but at the same time, we're also really good friends. And I wanted people to hear what those conversations were like.
Right. And speaking of those very candid conversations, you recently had Ashley Eckstein, who was a guest on our podcast as well. And you two talked a lot in depth about conventions and how you connect with fans and give them that really special moment. How do you find the energy to get through a 10-hour, 8-hour session and give each individual fan your full attention?
Yeah. What's funny is like that is the easiest part for me of conventions because it's for me, my personality type, it's infectious. I love meeting the fans. I love spending time with them. I love talking to them about whatever they want to talk about, really. I really enjoy conventions. I look forward to going to them because of that. We have so many common interests, and that is one of the things that I love about it as well. And I just love people. I love meeting so many different people from different walks of life that I would have never had the opportunity to meet otherwise. And I have such a respect and love for them. And so I find the energy easy because that's the energy they're giving me. And so if they were coming to my table and like, hey, great, so nice to meet you. Can you sign that? I'd be like, well, this is going to suck. But no, the fans are coming with so much passion and love. And so I just meet them where they're at.
Right. And do you ever kind of have to recoup after? Does it drain you at the end of the day?
Yeah, no, for sure. 100%. Yeah, no, it's, there are people at conventions that all go out to dinner and things afterwards. It takes a lot of energy for me to go to dinner with someone afterwards because I've been talking all day. I've been listening all day. And my smile hurts in the back of my head, like right here. You'd think if you smiled all day, your face would hurt. It's not. It's the muscles in the back of my head start to hurt. And so usually what I like to do after a convention, a long day, is I will give myself a drink. I will take a hot shower. And after that, if I have energy, I usually go meet someone that for a dinner or something like that I haven't seen for a while that I've worked with. That's a friend. And that's where those conversations happen a lot, So like Lou Diamond Phillips is coming on. Lou and I went to dinner a couple months ago to convention and just had such a wonderful conversation. And I was like, would you do this again on my podcast, please? So things like that.
Right. That's the energy you want to bring in. Like it's two old pals just sitting there talking.
Absolutely.
I really love that because I think that connects to fans in a way that something really scripted and read off word for word doesn't. So I really applaud you in bringing that to your fans. I think it's a lovely
thing. Thank you. Super fun.
So can you tell us where we can find your podcast?
Yes, absolutely. So the Sackhoff Show is available everywhere you get your podcasts and YouTube. So we're sort of, we're all over. If you like us on audio, we're on audio. If you like video, we're on YouTube. It's just really fun. I think people are going to really enjoy it.
Well, Katee, thank you very much for taking the time today to talk to me and to share your story and to give us insight into your life. I really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. It's been a pleasure. I love your show. I hope you continue. I know it's not easy. But continue. People get a lot out of it. So
thank you. That means a lot to me. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.